Hi folks, Slices here. Now, if I'd done this knife when I got it, I might have actually been in tune with the YouTube zeitgeist, because this was a new knife that was out this year, or about a year ago, and it's eagerly anticipated. I've had mine for a little while, and so I could have done something up to date, but instead, I've been sitting on it. Anyway, this is a really quite a nice little knife, and it's very much a classic, and it's one of those ones that if you're a knife collector, it's probably behoves you to have at least handled one of these, to know what by what standard many other knives are measured these days. This is of course the new Sebenza, Chris Reeve singular, no S, Sebenza 31, replacement for the original 21, and there's a couple of differences, and I will point those out as we go along. The obvious one being on the front here, it doesn't have the hole there, which used to apparently something to do with the way they were machined. It seemed a slightly odd thing. The other thing you'll notice about this one is it is a left-hand Sebenza. Now, Chris Reeve makes left-hand knives, and they're exactly the same price and so forth as right-hand knives, and I like that because I'm actually right-handed, but my right hand is paralysed, so I have to use left hand. So although I have one or two other frame lock knives, they've never been quite right for me. I've never got the frame lock experience quite right, because they don't really work so well in the offhand, particularly Chris Reeve knives, because they only have a thumb stud on one side. So if it's left-handed, you can do it with your left hand, but if you're right-handed, you're stuck. Now, talking of which, you have a thumb stud and the lanyard pin are both anodized blue. The blue comes off quite quickly off the thumb stud. Mine's looked like this, with very little blue on it for within a week probably of getting it. It's a simple knife, straightforward knife, and in many ways you could say slightly underwhelming. You kind of expect this is going to be there's some sort of super special knife, and actually it's a plain simple work knife. Sebenza means work, so it's that sort of makes sense, and it's a plain, fairly sterile knife. It's not all covered in gaudy colours or printing or whatever. It's plain grey. This plain Jane version is bead blasted titanium. Now, despite the fact that this is left-handed and I can operate it, it's still not easy for me to operate because my hands are so rubbish. But I can open it, even under the camera. Wow, that's quite a thing. We have this lovely, it's a hollow ground, I think it's a bead blasted or tumbled finish, I don't know what that is, tumbled possibly. You can see I use it quite a lot actually. I've been carrying this knife a lot. With the lockdown I can carry it, I don't have to worry about it being a UK legal carry knife and all of that usual bunk. One of the things the other thing that's changed on it, other than losing that little hole, the other big thing that's changed is that the detent ball is now also the lock device. I don't know if you'll be able to see that in there, but the detent ball actually is what makes contact with the base of the blade to see, I can't even reach up and shut the knife properly like proper knife people can, and it pushes on, that ball pushes on the end of the tang of the knife in there to act as the lock. Now, the other thing that's slightly unusual about this knife is a lot of these frame lock knives these days have fancy Dan ball bearing flippery opening systems. This runs on phosphor bronze washers, very big phosphor bronze washers, and but it also has a bushing. So screwing the pivot bolts tighter or looser has no effect on the blade action. Blade action is determined by size of the bushing and the thickness of the washers. So if you wanted to make a freer falling action, you take it to bits, which Chris Reeves encourages you to do. They give you instructions how to do it in the box, along with a cleaning cloth, some grease, and the Allen keys that you need to fit these holes. I don't know what size those are, 3/16 probably, or something like that. I'd a guess, that's only a guess. And you'll find that all three of these screws, 1, 2, 3, are exactly the same. They just have different. This one has a standoff around it, this one has a stop pin around it, and this one has the bushing for the pivot. So the bushing means that the pivot is bigger than the size of the screw that goes through it, but it also holds the two slabs a fixed distance apart, which means that no matter how much you tighten it, you never change the action. You only change the action, take it to bits, take the washers out, and to lap the washers on some very fine grit wet and dry paper, and then grease them, put them back in again, and that can change the action. Now these are done like that in the factory. That's what they do with them when they put them together. They put it together, test the action. If it's too tight, they take them apart, they lap the washers, put it back together again, and they do that, repeat that until they're happy with the action, that the action is right. Now I particularly wanted that, and I'll come back to the why in a minute. The other thing that I quite like is that the relief for the spring is on the inside of the knife and not on the outside. I just think that makes it look neater. The other change that they made to the 31 from the 21 is that the pocket clip, which is the same, but it's been canted over slightly so that it covers both the spring and the frame. That does two things. One, it's supposed to make it sit slightly better in the pocket, and the other thing is that it's supposed to act as a sort of pseudo over travel stop on the spring to stop you pushing the spring too far across. I don't know whether that really makes any difference. My suspicion is not, because if it sat on the spring and you pushed the spring back, then you had to bend the clip. Now it sits on the spring and the flat, you still have to push the spring back to make it over travel. I haven't made it over travel, and I can't imagine a situation where I would. Other things, features to note, obviously it's a drop point blade. It's available in different, there's a Tanto and a Nsingo blade shape, but this is the drop point, so this is kind of the standard one. You've got this jimping on the back, and at the other end, as well as the blue standoff, you have the blue lanyard pin thing, which comes with this lanyard through it. I don't really like that lanyard. I would probably like to change it, but I'm not sure that I'll get a bit of full-size paracord through that hole in the lanyard ring, because this looks just a bit thinner, sort of 4mm instead of 5 maybe. So I need to think about that, and I don't really want to cut it off. So I haven't quite decided what I'm going to do with that yet, but I'm going to do something with it, I think, in due course. Now, I wanted this particular pattern because it has very, very similar construction and operation to my Rockstar Heesen, which is a right-hand Heesen, but because the Heesen has it's got studs on both sides and they're quite big, which matters because I'm going to fold it. On the Heesen, on the right side, if you're opening it right-handed, you'd be pushing. You get that cutout there, so you can get your thumb in behind the the stud and it works. On the other side, you don't have that cutout because you've got the spring there. So it's very small cutout for the stud to sit in, but it means you've got to try and press that out while not pressing the spring, because then you get it locks. Now I can't open it. I opened it just now. You can press on the end and open it. Anyway, this also has a bushing pivot in exactly the same way as the Sebenza does. It's a sort of its mirror image. You have again the screw here for the pivot that holds the bushing around it, and then 2 phosphor bronze washers, and you have a standoff at the other end. Slightly different arrangement for the lanyard, and the other difference is that the stop pin inside there is you can sort of see it there. It's black, but it's just in there. Is oops, no, yeah, you maybe just about see it if it'll focus. I don't know if it'll focus. That is just set into holes in either slab, so there's no real. It's not screwed in, so there's only 2 screws instead of 3. But the basic system is the same, and the size is pretty similar. The blade grinds and finishes and so forth are completely at odds, and the other thing is that the Hizen, which is in GDP 189 by the way, or ZDP 189 if you're British, Japanese steel, polished, and then it has a nitride silver finish and a beautiful degree of polish, is the smoothest knife ever, even smoother than my Medford. So beautifully smooth. Now, this one is about a year old, so maybe my Sebenza will bed in as well. I don't know, but this one's just beautifully smooth. Its big brother, which is a couple of years old, is even smoother still. But I mean, that's a lovely knife. It's also, they're both well, this one's aluminium and this one's titanium. The big brother of this one is titanium, but this one is all nicely sculpted and so forth. It's prettier and it's smoother, and I like the blade better, but then it costs half as much again, so you know, it ought to be better. I think these are well priced, good value for money, really solid, nice knives, but it's kind of underwhelming. There's something, you know, I got the plain Jane version, so it's not really a surprise that it is a plain Jane. You've got marked CR there, and on the other side it says, oh, it's upside down, it's that way up. It says on the end there, Idaho made. And other than that, I think they're pretty much unmarked. Don't think it even says what steel it is. They are incidentally S35 VN. They're about to start moving over into S45 VN, which I know nothing about. I don't know what the Rockwell is on them, and don't think it says on the birthday card. Oops. But this doesn't say either, but it does say Hizen, and it's Hizen in Japanese, and 613, which is the serial number for it. And on the other side it's got Rockstar and the logo. So this one, the blade's a bit more billboardy. The handle has absolutely nothing on it at all. And again, there's no weight relieving or anything in it. These are all just plain slab knives, nice and simple construction. They've both got simple springs, simple clips rather. This one gets criticised for looking cheap because it looks like a gas station knife apparently, which says made in Japan on it, by the way. And this one is titanium, but this one works better. You know, it's easier to slide in and out your pocket, but it retains very well. It's got a good shape to it, but it's also got good flowing lines to it, which make it work. I find this one a bit sticky. The extra little dent in it here doesn't help when you're trying to get it in your pocket. And I also find this sort of bead blasted finish tends to be more draggy on your clothes, which makes it a little bit harder to use, whereas this one is just that little bit smoother. Anyway, that is the Chris Reeve Sebenza 31, and small one. I quite like a large one actually, but you know, you can't carry either of them in the UK without good reason and all of that. Good stuff, but it's a perfectly good knife, and as I say, in the lockdown it's one of these two and my ADV MP are the three knives that I've been carrying most of late. The MP gets carried when I go out because it's non-locking, obviously. Or just quickly for a size comparison, just if you're worried, slightly bigger than a Victorinox Pioneer, and it's about the same size as a UK PK, Spyderco UK PK. So there you go. If you like this stuff, please give it a thumbs up, and if you want to see more of this stuff, please remember to subscribe and ring the bell if you want notifications. Okay, thank you very much. That's me done. See ya. Bye.